This episode is brought to you by Esteban Clavijo and his legendary quote, "You can run what you think you can run."
Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast, my people.
Hello, my people. ¿Cómo están, damas y caballeros? Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast, where we welcome people with remarkable stories for amazingly vulnerable conversations. Today, yes, the amazing, the unbreakable, the unmistakable, the highly capable Esteban Clavijo is here. Esteban Clavijo is an Ecuadorian-Canadian high-performance athlete who is the Toronto FC Academy's athletic therapist since 2021 and an incredible runner with a personal best marathon time of 2 hours, 26 minutes, 52 seconds in Chicago a few months ago. That is like the Usain Bolt of Ecuadorian-Canadian running, right?
Close enough.
Close enough. Oh my God, I'm so excited to have Esteban here. Esteban and Stephan. And we will tell you the story of how we met, why he's here. But in the meantime, if you love this episode, just subscribe, share it with a friend, follow, anything. Anything helps. You will want to share the story of Esteban, and there's so many learnings here. Esteban, welcome, my friend. How do you feel?
Thank you for having me here. It's been a long time coming.
Yes.
We had this plan for a long time, and just circumstances happen, and finally made it work.
I know. We met in. So this is how we met. I live in North York, and there's this track by my house where it's very close. It's called Narzely Park, and there's a track field, and then there's a soccer field, and then behind it, not a lot of people know, but behind it, at Narzely Park, by the hangar, is Toronto FC's BMO training ground, which is where the professional soccer team Toronto FC of the MLS trains. But also the academy is there, and Esteban works there. He's the athletic therapist, and then I used to run by there, not obviously in the Toronto FC locations, the training ground, but outside there's the track. And then I always saw this guy who's like a freaking bullet. And because you see a lot of people who are like, okay, like me. And then there's like running clubs of people who like do it for the fit. Yeah, everybody does it for the fitness, I guess, a little bit, the mental health, to stay active. But then you could tell this guy was not your typical, like, I have a job and I run like 10K every day or whatever, and I do it for fun. Like, this guy is serious, and not only serious, a gazelle. And then after, I think maybe 4 or 5 times that I had seen this guy, I saw one day as I was done with my training, he was done with the training, that he had a hat with an Ecuadorian flag.
Yeah.
And I said, well, if that's an Ecuadorian flag, this guy has to speak Spanish. And I said, hi. I think I said, hi, do you speak Spanish, or what's your name? And he said, Esteban. And I said, oh, my name is Stephan. And I'm like, dude, you are running for your life here. What's your pace? And I said, like, my pace, my easy pace is like 6 minutes 30 seconds per kilometer. And I'm like, what's your pace, man? You're flying. I'm like, was that like 4:30? And what did you say, like 3:20?
I think it was like 3:30 per kilometer repetitions.
What? I'm like, that is double, literally double the speed. It's like I'm a baby, and Esteban is like a full-grown adult in this field. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever met anyone in my life who runs at this pace. And I'm like, I want to have you on the podcast. This was October.
That was October, yeah. It was a couple days before I left to Chicago, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe you were the one that gave me the good luck.
Oh, absolutely. So you went to Chicago. You destroyed your personal best
Yeah.
by over 6 minutes.
Yeah, over 6 minutes. Yeah, going into it, I thought I could run something fast. I thought maybe 2:30 was on the cards, but like to my surprise, I thought I was fitter than I thought I was. It's
That's
nice.
insane. Okay, so let's start since the beginning. So you were born in Ecuador.
Born in Ecuador,
You
born and raised in
came to-
Ecuador. Came to Canada in 2006 in that was a January. So very cold day. I'll remember. This is like a
With your
snow-
family or
with
by
my
yourself?
my parents and my sister. We all moved to Canada. My parents just made a decision that we wanted to explore something different and got here. It was
Nice.
a very cold day, snowy, just like how it is today.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Today's negative like 25 or 30.
Yeah. So something similar to that, and then we arrived here and kind of made our life here since then.
And was it like was it your parents were gonna study or work or just
No, so my parents just were looking for a new opportunity for my sister and I.
Amazing.
And my dad was living in the States before, working there, and for some reason he was just hanging out downtown. It was Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Yeah?
And he saw this billboard on the side, and it said, we're giving opportunity for immigrants to move to Canada. And my dad's like, yeah, fuck, we'll try it.
Where
So,
from Ecuador is your
from-
family from?
Quito.
From Quito. Nice.
Yeah, we're from like 30 minutes outside of Quito in a town called Machachi.
Machachi.
Mm-hmm.
Does
So
that mean anything?
No,
Machachi?
basically it's known as the Valley of the Nine Volcanoes. So basically a little town
Wow.
that's surrounded by volcanoes all
You're the
around.
10th volcano, man,
Yeah,
just
maybe.
erupting and running. I
yeah.
love it.
So yeah, we got here and my parents just basically made a decision from that point on. It's like we're gonna move to Canada and see how things go there.
And when did you start running? Cause from what I can, when you see somebody on the soccer field and you're like, wow, they're not just good. They do this professionally.
Mm.
This person didn't start playing soccer like a year ago. When did you start running? Was it in Ecuador?
No, so
or here?
as any Latin American, the first thing you do is pick a ball and start playing soccer.
Yeah.
So soccer was my life, my whole life, and basically kept doing that all the way. Came to Canada, and I guess in Canada I just didn't know how the system worked in Canada in terms
Yeah.
of soccer. Like I don't know what levels you had to do, like how do you kind of progress.
So this was 2005. You were 13.
Yeah, I was 13, and so then I kind of continued playing soccer in school and at the club level, but nothing really like a high level,
Yeah.
we'll say. And then in high school, we used to have a gym class where you basically run a 5K. And well, the first time I ran the 5K, I was thinking like 3-4 minutes ahead of everybody else.
That's like 40 seconds per kilometer. Quicker.
So my teacher at the time, he's like, "Hey, maybe you should come to the track team." I was like, I guess so. I have nothing else that I really want to do right now, so yeah, I'll try it.
What was that time? Do you remember? Like 19 minutes, maybe?
That's like 17:50
What?
maybe.
I can't even run that today. What's your 5K these days?
I think last year I ran 15:36. No, yeah, 15:36 last year.
That's insane.
So yeah, it was one of those things. Like, yeah, maybe.
That's like a full-on sprint for me, I think.
almost. I feel like it.
That's insane.
Yeah. So then he's like, "Come out to the track team, see how if you like it or not." And then yeah, so then I joined the first time and really enjoyed the sport, and that was it.
were you that first year competing already with the others, or it took a while?
I will say like I pretty much like it wasn't really a standardized training plan. You just went, ran, and then competed, and that's basically it. So yeah, I started competing pretty right away in high school, and
was it in high school? Is it 5Ks, 10Ks?
no, it was just
800s?
the longest I ran was 3K.
3K. Oh, so
on
it's
the
more
track.
like it was like 400s, 800s, or 3Ks.
So I competed more in the 3K, the 1500 in high school. So that's basically the longest you'll go on the track. And then cross country was,
Oh yeah.
I think the longest I ran in high school was probably 6K in grade 12. Mm-hmm.
So this was probably 2010?
So that was 2010, yeah, 2010, 2009. And from that point on, once I finished high school, I got the opportunity to go to university.
Here in Toronto?
I went to York.
Oh,
and
nice.
turns out I could get some money from running. So Yeah.
You would just go into the bank, steal the bank, and then run.
Yeah, basically kind of close to that. So yeah, they offered me opportunity to go to school, and then they were giving me some money for schooling. So yeah.
That's incredible. So you went here in North York to York University.
Yeah, basically I lived in Vaughan, so York region was very close
Perfect.
to me. Mm-hmm.
And what did you run there?
And university, same idea. I ran the 3K and the 15, but then cross country was 10K.
And what was your best best race? Not time wise, but like your favorite one to race.
My favorite race is probably, I was always good in cross country. That's the thing I kind of, since my first year university, when I kind of realized I was better at the longer distance stuff, was because in cross country I was always very good. I could handle the longer distances. I was stronger. But then every time we went to the track when the distances were shorter, I always struggled because I just couldn't get my legs to turn fast enough. So then in university, 10K cross country, I was very good.
Is anybody in your family, have they run?
No one. I'm like the strange one that just runs. In my family, they all played soccer, and my dad played basketball and volleyball, and same thing with my mom. But I was the only strange one that ran.
That's incredible. So you're doing this in high school, in university, and then there's more. It's not that it's competition, but since there is a club or you're on the varsity team, obviously, and you're running and there's races, then you have a next race to look forward to. You're training with your team. You have a coach, and you don't have to work 9 to 5 because you're in university, unless you have a part-time job. But it's like you're a student athlete in many ways, in the States, the NCAA, and there's a lot of races and times and everything. But once you graduate, you have to be your own coach because. And now it's in many ways the real world where you have to go, I guess, work, and then there's more. The onus is on you to wake up to go because your coach is practice is not at 10 a.m. with the team. You have to be your own team, your own coach, and sometimes you don't even want to train with other people because their training is not your training. So, how did that transition from university into when you graduated? Did you decide I'm just gonna quit this whole thing, or you said let me see where it takes me? What was that transition like?
So once I finished my last year university, I was still training under my university coach for I think the following summer, and so the plan was I'm gonna still run in the track and see how far I can take it. But then the next year after I graduated, it was I think I went through a bit of a struggle. Because I was still training with some of the university guys, but I wasn't really in university anymore.
Yeah.
And then I was starting to lose motivation. So then my coach decided he wasn't going to coach the university anymore. So I was basically left without a coach at that point. But so I was all right. So at that point I actually thought about what, I'm just going to give it up. But my coach at that time, he's the one that introduced me to my current coach now.
Who's your current coach?
His name is Derek Hashaw, and we train with the Newmarket Huskies.
Shout out to Derek Hashaw?
Hashaw, yeah.
Nice.
So basically my coach at that time reached me out to Derek, and then I literally was hey, you can go train with him. So then I messaged Derek, and Derek was alright, see you on Saturday. It was Saturday at 9 a.m. or something like that. So I showed up to the track, and he's alright, this is what we're going to do, have fun. So I was alright.
And had you been training, or had you stopped for a couple weeks?
Not really. It happened. That happened. I believe it was May. So around May 2016, maybe something like that. So I was training because I was planning to race a bit in the summer. So then around that time, I went and trained with them for the first time, and I was I think this is what I needed. I needed a new fresh start with a different mentality. There were some guys from university who came back and were training with a group.
So just to understand, what is the Newmarket Huskies? It's not a university team.
No, so the Newmarket Huskies is a track and field club that trains out of Newmarket. So basically they have a lot of kids from, I think our youngest ones are from 9-10 years old.
Oh, wow.
All the way to post-university athletes. So like be myself and some others.
But this is like high performance.
Yeah,
athlete.
high
You're not
performance,
taking
man.
me in.
I mean, like we do take like people that just wanna learn about the sport and maybe you fall in love to it and you improve and you can join. But it's a lot of us that like just have very big goals and we wanna see if we can achieve them. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So this is since 2011, 12?
So I started training with them since 2016 is when I moved to to train with the Market Huskies, and I've been with them since then.
Wow. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
2016.
And then so when I got there, he's like, okay, let's try the 10K, the 5K on the track, and I was like, okay, I'm enjoying this. Like this is better, like more around what I like to run. And I did that for a couple of years until one day I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just put my foot in the marathon and see what happens.
What year was that?
That was 2019.
Your first marathon or the decision was in 2019?
Basically, the decision was in 2019. My first marathon was Scotiabank in October of that year, yeah.
I ran it too.
Mm-hmm.
But I ran the half. You probably ran the full in this time. Same time I ran the half.
Yeah. So that was my first time that I actually trained properly for a marathon. And
what was your time that year?
2:32.
2:32?
That was my time, the first time I ran it.
That is insane.
Yeah,
So that's your second best.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
And how many marathons have you done?
3. I've done Toronto, Chicago, and Boston.
And what was your time in Boston?
2:38. I had a rough going into
What happened that day?
Basically, just didn't have enough training going into it. Thought I was fitter than what happened.
Yeah.
Went out through half very fast and then just blew up at 30K. My leg just gave up. I was basically cramping by the end.
Okay, so for context, obviously my as you know from other episodes and the episode with my cousin is a marathon coach and he also does marathons, and so I've done a little bit of learning and research on this, and one of the curious and special things about Esteban is that before we started the episode, he told me that the first half he runs it without looking at the watch, which tells you the pace, because in many ways you don't want that necessarily to condition your mind, but on the other hand, the most world records or the most personal bests of races have been ran when the second half of the race is quicker than the first half, right?
Which the most part, or it's even.
Or even,
yeah.
which is called a negative split.
Mm-hmm.
And Esteban, in that instance, he ran the first half really fast.
Mm-hmm.
But do you look at the watch at all in the first half, or you go by feeling?
I just went by feeling, and then I knew that day I just didn't feel right. Because normally by 10 miles I still feel pretty good, so 16K. Boston, got through 10 miles, I was like, I don't know about this. This is not feeling right. I'm still gonna keep going and see where it goes. Got through half, saw my time, I'm like, I'm pretty quick.
What's your inner dialogue at that point?
At that point was like, well, I'm already this far in, like, I'm gonna finish no matter what.
Do you have like a bad voice and a good voice, but being like, dude, this is like too fast and you're not feeling good, and the other voice is like, shut up, let's just run every mile, like run the mile that you're in? Like what do you always tell yourself? Because that inner dialogue is so important.
Yeah, I feel like in Boston I had a lot of that after the half, because a part of me wanted to just give it up, but then another part of me was like, you came all the way here, like you have to finish it, like you put all the training, it's like you're finishing some way somehow, but the other side of me was like, nah, your legs can't even go anymore. It's just like, stop.
And in a country like Canada, so for example, right now I've been running outside until like a week ago, where my wife just I've ¿cómo se dice? Me doblé el tobillo.
You sprained your ankle.
I sprained my ankle several times in the snow in previous years. So my wife is like, it's so slippery. We had this snowstorm last week. Why would you run outside? You're just gonna sprain it again, and it's been kind of hurting a little bit. So I'm like, I don't want to run in the freaking treadmill. I hate it. But then She's like, just do it today. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll download a couple of Netflix documentaries because it was an easy run, like, I don't know, 10K, easy pace. And then I'm like, oh no, actually, I think it was like 15K. I'm like, I wanted to kill myself, but I'm like, okay, the documentaries are kind of making it a little better, and then today's negative 30. So I've been running through the winter with 3 layers. Although the third layer, the first layer gets so wet, and if it's like colder than negative 10 degrees
and it's
Celsius,
very windy,
and if it's windy,
it goes through your skin and you're freezing.
So what's your mindset in the winter? Because you ran 3 marathons in 3 years, which means that you really dedicate yourself to the goal.
Yeah.
You're not a guy like, I ran 14 marathons in 13 years. I don't even care about the result. Like, you're literally training for that day. But what do you do throughout the winter?
So through the winter, it's hard. Like, I normally always try to run a half. So I'm racing a half in March of this year in Burlington.
In March? It's still pretty cold.
Yeah.
Are you wearing 1 layer?
So last time I ran it, I ran with 1 layer because it was still 10 like, I think that race day was 8 degrees.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's perfect.
So it wasn't cold, it was just bright. So I'm hoping that happens this year. But so normally that's what kind of gets me through the winter, because normally I'm done my season around, so I run a marathon in October, still train a little bit, and run cross country until I think my last race is usually the second week in November.
What's cross country? 15K?
10K.
10K.
10K, 8K, yeah.
And do you go all out? You're not just doing it for fun.
Yeah, I go all out.
And what's your personal best in 10K?
So like that depends. In the 10K, I've run 32:56.
What? I think my best 10K was like 53 minutes like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So like I'm normally done my season in November, and then comes the winter, and like, okay, I still have a race in March, like have to start running.
So how much, because I feel like my mindset and I'm not a big motivation guy, because discipline beats motivation any day of the week. You know, what if I'm not motivated today, and then all my goals go down to the drain? So, but I do feel like after the marathon, after October or around November, when it's starting to get cold and darker, I feel less motivated. So the quicker I have another goal, I can start working towards it, and that kind of gets me motivated. I feel like I have another game to play, you know?
Yeah.
Because throughout the summer and throughout the year, you're like, okay, October 15 or October 14 or whatever it may be, and that's on your board, you know? That's on your mind. But when it's like, I don't know, do you love the UFC?
Yeah, of course.
So the UFC, Chito Vera is from Ecuador. Yeah. So the UFC, it's like a training camp, you know, for your fight, and it'll be like, let's say, March 30 is your fight, and you're going through lots of things through that training camp, which is like you preparing for this marathon. But once it's done, there's so much anticipation and work that goes into it. It's almost like the journey is more interesting than the day. I mean, the day is cool, obviously, because it's the climax of it. But the after, you're like, now what, you know? So it's important to not let yourself mentally and emotionally go down. What do you tell yourself after the last cross country?
So like after Ren Chicago, like you get a bit of those like post marathon blues.
Yeah.
When like you finish it and you're like, this moment was so great that nothing else can get to that level.
Yeah.
Like I finished Chicago, and then the next 2 days I was just like a blob. I was like, there's nothing as good as that moment. So the next 2 days you're like trying to find something that's similar to, and nothing can reach to that level.
Nothing can beat it.
So and like for me it was even worse, because after I finished that, I had to take a week off of no running, nothing, because I can't even walk.
Is that what it's like for you?
Oh yeah, like you finish, and as soon as I cross the line, it's good luck trying to go up and down the stairs.
That's how I know that I didn't give my 100% because I could. No, I was obviously hurting, but not like down for a week. Obviously, you are going like all out. I'm basically trying to finish it and obviously execute the race plan that my coach gave me, and go like have a negative split and go like, I think my race plan, just to compare our race plans, I ran 21, you ran 42, and my race plan was like, okay, first, let me just remember, first 2K or first 5K, let's run it at 6 or 5:55.
Mm-hmm.
Then from 5 to 8, let's run it at 5:53, around there. Then from 8 to 12, let's run it at 5:48, and then at 12 the real race starts for a half. And then it was like, okay, let's bring it down to 5:40, and then at like 16, okay, let's go all out. And but at 16, I'm like, I can't go all out because I don't know if I'm gonna make it, you know? And I don't want to fuck up my perfect little mountain of negative, like improving
Splitting.
But what was yours like?
So for me is basically I divide the marathon into threes.
Okay.
So I'll do 10 miles, and then 10K. So basically 10 miles is 16K. So
Yes.
the first 16K, so normally in a mass race like Chicago, the first K is going to be fast because like you're at the front and you're just going out quick just to try to get like a proper position, make sure you're not tangled between people. So
So this is actually a thing. You're trying to come out quick.
yeah, you're trying to come out like a little quick, but not like you're not sprinting out the first kilometer.
And how many kilometers do you run to warm up? 2, 4?
So before that, I warm up for 10 minutes, so it's like I'm over a mile or so. So I'll do like my warm up normally was for a marathon.
But is a jog or you're trying to?
No. It's like a trot. So like I'll do. So now 45 minutes, 50 minutes before the race starts, I'll go out, do like a mile, 10
Yeah.
minutes or so. Then I'll do some dynamic stretching, a bit of like drills and stuff like that, and then I'll change into my racing gear and then start doing like strides.
What about hydration?
So-
What's your food like that day? You wake up at 4
So
a.m.,
for me,
5 a.m.?
hydration starts 2 days before. So 2 days before, I make sure I'm drinking water, electrolytes, eating really well, and then the day.
What's eating really well look like?
So like having just a lot of carbs.
Which is like pasta.
rice, chicken, like anything you can possibly get your hands
But
on.
you're not going like a maniac the night before because you don't want to feel like, ugh.
Yeah, so that's the idea, right? Like 2 days before is for me usually 2 days before the race is more food than the day before, because the day before, like especially for me in Chicago, my wife and my sister can attend to this. The dinner before, I could barely get any food in my system because I was just I was just anxious.
Yeah.
That I just couldn't get any food. I was just like stare at the plate and like slowly try to like consume pasta.
Okay, so this is now it's day.
So-
what time do you? It's 7 a.m. that you gotta be there.
Yeah, the race started at 7:15.
So you wake up at 4.
So I was at the like Sub Elite tent at 6 in the morning. So I woke up around 5. Did the normal thing, like the normal bathroom routine. Then came out, had some breakfast. My breakfast that day is just 4 pieces of toast with like peanut butter and jelly, and then a cup of orange juice, and then I have like hydration tabs or noon hydration tabs. So
Yeah.
I had a tap of that in like a cup of water, and that was it. And I will take that with another like little bit of Gatorade for warm up and stuff like that.
Nice. The other in the now it's not called the Scotiabank. Is it called like the TNT, TT? I don't know.
TD what? I don't know. I used to be Scotiabank.
Yeah, well, let's call it the Scotiabank because I worked at Scotiabank or whatever. So, maybe it was a shock for me, but obviously I haven't been in the running high performance world for long enough, or I'm not even in it these days. But on the race, as you know, your habits have to be so good so that you don't have to go and take a shit right before the race, because all the Tim Hortons and all the Starbucks and all the bathrooms in the perimeter of the race are gonna be booked. There's gonna be lineups, and I saw, well, you know, the race comes out of like University and let's call it Richmond or whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw this girl who was probably in 25, 30 years old and looked like she was a pro. And she, in like a side street, pulled down her pants and took a shit in the middle of the street, like in the middle of like an electric pole and like a post. Mm-hmm. And I thought she was just gonna pee, and I was doing like my semi sprints just to kind of warm up, like 50 meters or whatever. And I'm like, okay, she just took down her pants and she's gonna pee quickly. I get it. Like a lot of us, if you run long distances, in like when I run in El Salvador or back home and through coffee plantations, I've taken a dump many times on the mountains or whatever in the middle of a coffee plantation. And I'm like, okay, she's just gonna pee because all the But then I did another sprint like 30, 40 seconds later, and she was still there taking a dump and wiping. And I was like, this is commitment. I respect it. Because she's like, I'm not going to miss the start. To your point, so you're going for good positioning. Like, to me, that's not a concern because I'm like, I'm just going to be with everybody here, and I'm running my own race. So you want to get positioning.
You want to get like you don't want to be right at the front, but like you want to be at a place that you like. For me especially, I don't like having a lot of people around me.
Yeah.
Because I find that like I have to shorten my stride, and I just feel like I'm very claustrophobic. So like I like being away from people as much as I can.
Is it a big deal for you the turn, like the doing like turning on your left in the curve, so you don't have to do a wide turn and lose a couple seconds?
So yeah, I try to take the tangent as much as I can. So like you take the shortest curve on the turns, but like usually the first, well, probably like 5, 6, even 10K, you're still around like a decent amount of people. So like
and then the posers start to fade away.
So like the idea for me, like the first 10 miles is like you're gonna go out quick, but like you're gonna like your idea is you're trying to run very smart and very comfortable.
Okay, so that's the first race, the 10 miles.
The first 10 miles is like you're just trying to feel comfortable, feel like you're running at the pace / effort that you want to do, but you're not like going anything farther than that. And then the next 10 miles is like, okay, you're feeling good, you're approaching the half. Like if you still feel good, maybe you can start pushing it a little, still being smart, not trying to, break.
Yeah.
Because you still have like 30 something K to go.
What does the game plan look for you? Do you listen to music, podcasts?
Nothing.
You have nothing in your pockets, or do you have the gels? Because I saw a video on your Instagram where your wife, I think it was like sprinting next to you to give you a bottle of water as you were sprinting.
So basically how we do it is like there's hydrations at every 5K. So
in the marathon.
So at every 5K, I will take some sort of like electrolyte liquid that they have offered. But I specifically told them to wait for me at half.
Who is them? Your wife?
So my wife and my sister to wait for me at half. Because I had a specific bottle for me that had
dynamite in it.
Basically looked like it. So all it really had was electrolytes and a gel attached to it. The gel just for extra glucose, extra energy. So basically they were a half and they saw me coming. We practiced it before. They just had their hand out. I just went, took it out, and kept going.
But they can't be, or they weren't standing. They were kind of running, or they were standing.
That she was standing, but like she's done it long, like enough times to know that she wanted to kind of continue the momentum of me running, right?
Did you have to slow down a little bit?
Not really. I just keep running, just open to the right, to the left at that time, put my hand out, and then keep going.
That's insane. I've listened to you know David Goggins?
Yeah.
I've listened to both his books on audiobook. I like to in long days. I always listen to podcasts as I'm running, and obviously not like the quality training where it's like fast on the treadmill. I don't even like to listen to music. I like to like feel like I'm learning. But obviously if it's like a very intense training, I'm not even listening to whatever is being. But if it's a like easy run, easy pace, like 10 or 15K, I love to listen to stuff. And he's like, all these things, all these details are so important because you miss one good hydration. Because what my cousin says is like, if you feel dehydrated, it's too late already.
Yeah.
So, what other details do you have into consideration apart from? Do you also wear like the body for the chafing, or
Not
you don't
really.
chafe?
So for me, it's just like the outfit I wear. I know that will never give me any troubles. I will never chafe with that.
And what's that?
So
It's
it's
like
basically half tights that are like they're Nike Pro, so they're very fitted to your body, so they don't produce any chafing. And then same thing with my singlet. It's just like basically looks like a tank top, but it's dry fit.
Okay.
Right, so like it'll never give me any issues.
And then the shoes, you don't. O sea, what pros do is you have your trainers and you have your racers.
Yeah.
And do you only use your racers on race day? Because that's like one day a year.
So, like I train with a similar model, just an older version.
And what is that?
It's just they're called Nike Vaporfly Next Percent.
Is that the Elliot Kipchoge?
Yeah, so those are like the fast shoes basically.
You're the Ecuadorian Elliot Kipchoge.
Try to be. So I train with those. I train with an older version of them, but then on race day I just run with a fresh new pair.
So basically, you train with an iPhone 10, and you race with
an iPhone 11. Like it's just the next version.
I love it. And what are your what's your training looking like these days? How many kilometers a week?
So
how many times?
So for the half, I started training back in December. Now I'm at the point where I'm running 150K a week. Yeah. In 6 days.
What? Wait,
Yeah.
let me just do the math here. How many days a week?
6.
150?
150K.
That's like 25 kilometers a day?
Yeah, something around that, yeah.
25 kilometers a day.
Yeah, that's what it comes to. I think that's the average, yeah. Per day.
And outside?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. The only times I don't go outside is like a day like today where I can't even breathe properly.
And then are you in the dome or are you
I'm
in
the treadmill, yeah. As much as I hate it, that's the only way.
And no podcast, no music, no TV.
I honestly, I find it because of work and stuff. Like I could get so much stimulus from other people that's the only time where it's like just myself.
Yeah, that's very important.
And like just clear my head but when I'm doing a workout, I can't even think. I'm just running very fast.
Yeah.
So, but like during easy runs, it's like I just like knowing
it's like
that there's
meditation
nothing.
in many ways. It's like recharging. I was talking to a guy, the Johnny Waite, who's the episode before this, and he does marathons as well. And in many ways, what we were discussing, and I want to see if it's similar to you, it's some people that don't run, they're like, why would you do that? That's so boring. It's horrible. Why would you just run? It's not fun. Why would you just not play soccer or frisbee or more dynamic or video games or like just work out? But in many ways, what I like to think, even if I'm listening to podcasts, there is something chemical that happens, endorphins or whatever it is, where you just, the runner's high that people call, where you're in this beautiful, calm sense of peace and meditation, where some of the best ideas happen or your problems get fixed, or sometimes it's like therapeutic and healing at times. And even if I'm listening to a podcast, I'll just like not even listen to it, and I'm just like, wow, how did I get to this part of the city or this part of the like what happened in these past 2-3 kilometers? And it's just peaceful. What is your experience? Is that similar?
Yeah, it's very similar. So like especially during like easy days when I'm not really having to push the pace at all, it's just like it feels like I'm able to get away from anything that may happen around my life, and it's just like a time for me to just be there on my own and think if there's something I need to resolve or just to stay away from everything. Like I like running on country roads because there's just empty land beside you. So
yeah. So when I see you, where do you run on Downsview? So basically, I go from here, which is Shepherd and Allen, to the track, which is Downsview Park, and then I go to the fountain, which is Keel and Shepherd, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the fountain, and then I go around to Keel and Shepherd, then I come back up, and all the way to the start of Downsview Park. Just the loop is 6.5 kilometers approximately.
Yeah.
But you're running 25.
So
where do you go?
So I only go to Downsview just when I'm doing like workouts because I have the track very accessible there, and I have a perfectly mapped loop around.
What's your loop?
Like it's basically just around like the not the parking lot, but just like the main roads of Downsview.
Yeah.
That it's just under a mile, so I know I can do workouts there. And if I need to hop on the track, it's just right there.
Yeah, because when I used to see you, I used to run behind the parking lot of the hockey place.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I've never seen this. I never saw you again. Like, where's this guy looping? But then I saw you again, coming back to the parking lot, and I'm like, where? So you're going by the helicopter?
Yeah. So I go like around the buildings on the main roads.
Yeah.
And then kind of come back. And I usually start right by the tracks in case I have to do something where I'm doing a tempo on the road. And then have to do some faster stuff on the track, I can just hop right into it.
So what's your 25 kilometers looking like? Do you go all the way to Young and come back?
So like let's say I never really will do anything like for a repetition, like for anything like this interval stuff. I never really do anything longer than maybe 10K. And if it's 10K, I'm just doing that same loop like 8 times, right?
Oh, okay.
But if I'm doing like a longer run, so like now my long runs are around... Like this week I did 32K.
Yeah.
So then I just run. I live in Scarborough, and I live very close to like the country roads. So I just go there and then run north until halfway. When I get to halfway, turn around, go the other way.
Okay, and how did working for? Oh no, let's go back to the race. So first 10 miles, good. Second 10 miles.
Like I start pushing a little bit, but still like within my comfort zone. Like still not trying to squeeze anything out of my body too much.
And what's that inner dialogue? Obviously, you're assessing if you're fresh.
Yeah, you're assessing basically the only thing I really look into is like how do my legs feel? Like my legs feeling tired. Am I breathing harder than I need to be at this point? Do I feel like I'm exerting more energy than I would need to at this point? Because if I'm tired at that point, like red flag to start going, right? Because you still have 22K left.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, we still have a bit of ways to go.
And your breathing, is it nose? Is it mouth? Is it whatever
it's
feels?
Both. It's just I breathe through my nose and my mouth really. Like I don't have a really specific technique. I just breathe. But my idea is I try to breathe comfortably. Right? I don't feel like I'm gasping for air. I'm just like trying to breathe comfortably.
Okay, and then the last
10K is like, all right, do you have 10K to go? So no more holding back. Like that's the time when I just like try going for it. And
is there a specific quote or a specific because you have to dig deep at times, or is it just like who cares, or is it like I'm gonna do it for my family or for myself for the training, or is there like do you think of Rocky, or like is there anything that really motivates you? Because sometimes you just don't want to be in your mind at times thinking like, oh, this kilometer is gonna be super hard, and you want to think of other things. What's your experience
for
like?
me at that point was I had 10K to go. So I knew no matter what, because of previous splits that I was able to see at that point, I knew that I was on a very fast pace. So I knew that 10K to go, I was like, okay, so now you have to go. So all I told myself was like, okay, let's go. Like, let's hammer down, settle in, and let's go for it. So like the whole time I was just like, keep going. In my head I just kept telling myself, squeeze a little more.
Oh my god. So it sounds like in many ways what the race is like is just a product of your mindset in training. Because a lot of people think like the race is going to be a Hail Mary and I'm going to do the best that I've ever done and I'm going to break the records or my own records. But if you didn't go hard and you weren't committed in practice, the miracle is not going to come in race day.
Like for me, it was a lot of, I knew what I did for the 16 weeks leading up to it, and I knew I had the training behind me, so that kind of gave me that motivation to know, it's like, okay, you're ready for this. Like, don't hold back. Just trust your training.
Nice. And okay, so what was the first thing that came to mind when you crossed the finish line in Chicago?
I honestly, there was like this big sense of emotion just went through me. Like I've crossed the line and I just had like this big yell at the finish line because like I saw the time was like I couldn't believe that just happened. So like this big, there's emotional energy just got into my body. I just couldn't believe it.
Like a UFC fighter winning the title.
Yeah, sort of thing. Yeah, like
Yes.
you crossed and you're like, oh my god, like this happened.
It's incredible because I don't I don't have the equivalent necessarily in running, but I like, obviously, when I cross the finish line in my half marathons, it feels incredible because it's a tremendous effort going and training, and it's a journey and it's beautiful. But I like the running part of it, the fact that you have an instant result and you get what you deserve in many ways, and it's like the climax, because in this UFC as well, in soccer as well, like the result is, did you win or did you lose? But in comedy, like you will work towards a lot of things, and if you get a really cool show or an amazing festival, the climax and the yelling and the ecstasy is coming in like smaller doses, like because maybe you get the news and it's like, but you haven't done the show yet, and then you're doing the show, but you're not gonna interrupt the show to be like, and after the show, like you're not gonna yell, maybe you will, but in the running you get, it's like you get what you deserve.
Yeah, you get an instant gratification of like, you've done this much work for this many months, you've sacrificed this many things, this many early mornings where you had to wake up when you didn't want to do it, and all that culminating on like this one result. Like it's probably the greatest emotion I've felt
in your life.
In my life, yeah.
I love it. The best emotions that I've ever felt is sports related as well.
Yeah, it's like just a huge euphoria that goes through your body. You're like, you feel like you can do anything at that point, even though you can't walk, but like you feel like you can do anything.
And as we were saying, I don't know if it was at the beginning or before the episode, but in many ways, and I think you know this already, but I like to study a lot of high performers. I like to read and study people who have accomplished great things so that I can copy the blueprints into my career. And a lot of Olympic athletes go through depression right after the Olympics. Yeah. And a lot of astronauts go through depression right when they come back from space, and then you're just like, you've been in space, and like now you're just like in your garden and you're like looking at the flowers, like what just happened in the last 48 hours. You mentioned that
the same thing happens to like marathoners. Like once you, especially if you've had a very successful result, like this huge euphoria after the finish line, you've accomplished what you wanted to accomplish on that day, and like the next 2 days you're just like, now what? Like nothing is gonna fulfill me as
nothing is gonna top this.
The last 2 days. So that's when a lot of people just like, I guess they go under that depression, because like there's nothing that's gonna get them to that point as they were 2 days ago, right? And you can try replicating it, but just you can't. Like,
you can't.
No.
Like Olympic athletes, you've been working for that
for 4 years.
For 4 years, or really your whole life.
Yeah.
And imagine that the Olympic athletes that win. Have you watched The Weight of Gold by Michael Phelps?
Yeah.
Even Michael Phelps, who won the most in history, goes through depression. Imagine the guy who doesn't even win. Mm-hmm. Like how tough it. And then there's athletes who are in disciplines that there's a lot of money and sponsorships. Mm-hmm. But then there's others like weightlifting or javelin, I don't know how to say that in English. That javelin that there's not a lot of money, and they still have to have a 9 to 5 at times. Mm-hmm. It's hard when you go back. What do you do mindset wise to make sure that you don't have only the highest of highs and the lowest of lows?
For me, it was like the biggest thing was just like, okay, like you know what you did, just like appreciate what just happened, but now is the time for you to just relax, like rest for a little bit. Like you're gonna feel like nothing is gonna compare to that moment, but just appreciate the moment you're in right now.
Yeah.
And you know, make you once you take that break, then it's like, okay, what's your next goal? Like, what do you want to accomplish now?
Yeah, that's what my cousin said, where it's like, okay, we're committed for these 4 or 5 months, and then after the race, take 7 days, 10 days, where even if you want to, you don't run.
Yeah.
It's very important to set those boundaries, because then you're gonna commit to something else.
Yeah, that's why like a lot of people once they're like finish the marathon, like they go on a vacation. Like a lot of pros, especially,
I didn't know.
they go on vacation right afterwards, because like you don't, like the worst thing, like what I found difficult for me is going back to my regular routine
Yeah.
without running.
Wow, that's a good point.
Right? Because like now you're doing the same, it's exactly the same thing that we were doing, but now you're not filling out those 2-3 hours that you were filling out with running. So you're like
Yeah.
just there.
Looking at the wall.
like, what am I gonna do with my life?
Yeah, and how did the working with Toronto FC Academy, how did that opportunity come about, and what is your day-to-day like with these up-and-coming athletes that I guess want to make it pro in the
Yeah.
next few years?
So normally with them, they start training between 3 o'clock until about 9 p.m. at times.
Do they go to school?
Yeah, they go to school. Some of them are allowed to leave earlier. They're in like a modified school, so they like the schools understand that these are high level athletes that
Yeah.
potentially will be going pro very soon. So some of the schools have special arrangements where they only go to school until 12 o'clock, and then the last couple of classes they'll do them online on their own.
Oh, wow.
So they have special arrangements for them. So with them, I start my day at 1 o'clock every day. So we go from 1 until 9, or sometimes early, depending on when the training sessions end.
1 until 9 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it depends. That could be like that's how it is right now, but it could be earlier, could be late. Like it just depends on how many training sessions we have. We have 5 teams from U14 to U19, so it really depends when they train. All right.
Wow, this topic I'm really passionate about, because in many ways there needs to be choices and sacrifices at this age, because if you're committed and you want to make it, you can't be like partying and going out and everything unless you're just extremely talented and you don't even care. But then in many ways you have to have very good mental health to not just think that your identity is I'm a soccer player, because if that becomes your only identity and you don't make it pro, or you have a career-ending injury like ACLs, you are demolished, because your whole life you've been like, my identity is a soccer player, I make friends through soccer, I gain respect through soccer, I meet girls through soccer, or I meet guys through soccer, and then once you're 17 or 19 and you didn't make it, then you're like, who am I? What does the academy? I know that the physical side is in many ways taken care of, because that's in many ways what is, you need to perform at that high level. But what can you recommend, if anybody is listening, on how to strengthen the mental aspect so that you don't just bet on that? And I know everybody's committed, but like LeBron says, you're more than an athlete. You know what I'm saying?
So for a lot of our kids, like the biggest thing is that they gotta have more than one goal. Like they can't put all their eggs on one basket, right? Like think about it. There's just so many soccer players in the world, and only really 1% of them are gonna become that professional player. So for a lot of them, it's like, okay, what happens if you become a professional player? Well, maybe I go to school, right? Maybe I get a scholarship for university, right? And then you can kind of progress your career. So a lot of them, we kind of guide them in through, like they can kind of see at an earlier age, okay, this guy's gonna be something special. Maybe like he will be that pro that we can get out. And then there's other people who are like, maybe he's just not gonna be a pro, but he'll be a very good NCAA athlete, a very good youth sport athlete. Maybe we'll get them in connection with those schools so they can continue playing soccer if they want to, but they're also going to school and getting that
like a
degree.
means to an end in many ways. Because I feel like there is so much depression and I mean not relapses in mental health, but you've seen it like pro athletes in soccer. Typically now it's going a little bit up the age, but it used to be 32, 33 where you're done. I'm 36, 35. You're 32. So basically, if we were like I would be retired.
Yeah.
And you would be done.
Basically done, yeah.
And so that's like a 10-year career span or 12 if you're lucky. In the NFL, the average years, like average is like a year and a half in the league. And quarterbacks are the ones making it big, but if you're just in the special teams, you're probably making like 150,000 or less or 250, like you're not making the biggest of deals. And if you get cut, you're just in that system all the time. And then when a lot of players retire, they first of all, they thought this was going to go on for a long time, the money, and it didn't. So now you go, your income decreases like 80%. And then everything that you've been mental-wise, it's just because you had been the famous athlete or... But when that's not there, people don't know what to do.
Yeah, so that's one of the things was like education just becomes a huge thing. It's like now you have your degree, maybe this is something you do post your career, right? Like you develop different passion. Like it's very important for them to have something else other than soccer, so they don't identify themselves just as the soccer player.
I'm a big fan of like talent and skills are important, and that's what most people double down on, but they're not enough at times. Like talent and skills in comedy, you could be a very talented player or comic, but if you're a drunk, you're disrespectful, you do drugs, you don't have discipline, you're just gonna be a guy who had talent.
Yeah.
So what have you done, or what do you see in athletes that make it far? How do they supplement the skills part of it so that they are a more complete package? Is it reading books? Is it meditating? Is it nutrition? What do you do, and what have you seen in others?
Like for a lot of the higher level athletes that I've seen, they understand that their sport has other components, nutrition, their sleep, like alcohol consumption, like what do they do outside of sport? Like they're not just a professional when they're training on the field. They're a professional all 24 hours of their life. And that's the biggest thing, is like they understand that they want to reach this certain point or a certain goal. What can they do the whole day to get there, right? How many hours of sleep do they get? Their water consumption, are they eating right? Are they controlling all the stress that's coming in their life? Are they able to talk to a psychologist or someone that they can kind of reach out to when they have something in their mind? Are they doing like an ice bath to help with their
injuries? You do ice?
Oh, yeah.
Every day?
Not every day, but pretty much maybe 2-3 times a week.
And what does that look like? How many minutes?
10 minutes. 10 minutes and just...
Do you have it at your house, or do you do it at TFC?
At TFC. I'm lucky enough that we have the facilities, so I go there. Like for me, in terms of injury prevention, like I'll do ice baths maybe 2-3 times a week, and then I'll do compression on my legs. So I don't know if you've seen like Normatex.
The pants, like the big pants.
The big pants that they fill up with air and then they compress and then they relax, and it just helps with blood flow.
Yes.
So I'll do that 3-4 times a week. I have it at my house. I use them at work. Like
this is your life.
Yeah. Yes,
I love it. I know that a lot of people, like, my favorite podcast ever is Conor McGregor on the Tony Robbins podcast, and he says like you have to be like obsessed. You have to be like 110% in, and he was saying like I found out that LeBron James was investing like 1.5 million in his body, and he was like, I'm investing zero. Like, I just go super hard into training camps, but I don't like complement it when I'm not in training camp. I don't invest anything when I'm not in training camp. Like, I'll work out or whatever. And then when people heard that part of like the LeBron James thing, so Conor McGregor started to, he's like, now I'm traveling with an army, like nutritionist, chef, like this my sparring partners, my psychologist, everything. And when I saw people commenting that, oh, of course LeBron James is gonna spend $1.5 million on his body because he's rich, but don't get it wrong, it's the other way. He's rich because he's been investing in himself for so long, and Tom Brady as well, where I don't know if you watched the Tom Brady documentary on Facebook.
I haven't yet.
Dude, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So this guy spends, well, he just retired a couple of days ago for the second time. But spends hours watching film because he's able to be very honest and have very good self-awareness as to what he's good at and what he's okay at. And he knows he's not the best athlete, like physical-wise, because I think he ran the 40 yards in like the 40-yard dash in his
just look at where he was drafted.
He was like drafted 199.
Yeah, no one wanted him.
But the mental aspect he triples down on, and LeBron James and Tom Brady and others complement so much the other areas where they can gain an edge.
Well, like if you look at all the high-level elite athletes, like the people that have reached the top pinnacle, like they're not just training their asses off every day. They're like eating right. They're doing stuff outside of their 2-hour training session, right? They're controlling their meals. Like they're sleeping okay. They're doing extra rehab. They're getting a massage, doing like whatever they can do to complement the big picture.
I love it. And what is when you are performing at such a high level in many ways, like you are, you can't be like, for example, I'm very clear in myself that I don't even want to be the best runner, but I know that running makes me a better comic because the exercise gives me mental clarity, and it makes me execute and work better throughout the day.
Yeah. But
my life revolves around comedy. And my wife and my son, I guess my son is 3, but he understands now that I leave to do shows at nights and that, but everybody around me knows that, like my team knows that I am 110% committed to this journey, and that there are certain, I wouldn't call it sacrifices, I would call it choices, because I want to be here and I have to travel and I have to go out late sometimes and I have to write, I have to do all these things and that's a time commitment. Did you meet your wife before you started running or during?
No, she knew what
Does
she was
she run?
getting into. No, she's a field hockey player.
Field hockey, nice.
So same thing. She played at university, pretty high
York?
level. Yeah,
Nice.
New York. Played for Team Canada indoors.
Wow.
So she was pretty high level. So she understood like what she was getting into. Like she's fully. I call her like basically she's like my manager, right?
Yes.
She's the one. I'm like, okay, I'm resident in Chicago. She takes care of booking the flights, booking the hotels, like doing everything, so I don't have to think about anything. I just train and run.
Focus on the task at hand. Yes.
So she's very supportive in that sense. Like she fully understood. Like, okay, there will be days when I'm waking up at 7:00, 5:00 in the morning, because I have to go for 32K, and then come back, and then maybe spend an hour with her, and they have to go to work, and then come back, and then okay, I'm going for a run. You wanna come on a bike beside me, so we can kind of chat? So like that became like our time together.
I love it. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you. How do you make yourself go run? Is it a problem for you ever? Or do you stare at your shoes? Or you like, I call it positive procrastination, where I'm like, I don't want to write this email, or like I don't want to like structure this deal or whatever, but I also don't want to go run today. So I'm gonna kind of like do the deal, like the work that I need to do as I postpone the run, and then like when I have the ultimate deadline, because if I don't run, I'm not gonna make the next meeting. Then I'll go run. How do you ever have trouble?
I would be hypocritical if I said like, okay, I love running every single day. Like, no, when I'm running 100 miles, 60K a week, like there's days when I'm just super sore and super tired that I just don't want to go. But I have a goal that I want to achieve. So like, okay, you have to do this even you feel like absolute shit. Like,
I feel like sometimes if it's scheduled on the calendar, like on my calendar physically, I know I have to run. But if it's on the calendar from 8 to 10 a.m., for example, it kind of makes me do it more.
Yeah.
Do you schedule?
For me, like, it's the same thing. Like, I know that I have to leave my house for a run at a certain time, or else I won't be able to get the mileage that I need to get done for that day because of work. So I know that no matter what, even I'm feeling horrible at that time, I have to be out the door and going.
Yeah, that to me, even David Goggins, sometimes in the audiobook, he says, like, I stare at my shoes for 40 minutes and I don't want to go out. But you do it. I think that's the difference. Like, that's the difference between people who rely on motivation and people who don't. Are you committed, or are you not? Did you go for the run, or did you not go for the run?
Yeah.
Period. And the other thing is, like, some people may say, I've become really good at, through this course that changed my life called Landmark, to not like dwell on the bad decisions, or if I didn't run a day because okay, you didn't run, that sucks. It was part of your training, or you ran, instead of 16K, you ran 13 because of time commitments or whatever. But it's inefficient for me to be pissed off at myself for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. So I've learned to just like kind of let it go. Okay, it didn't work out, whatever, we'll get him next time.
Yeah.
Do you do this as well?
For me, it's like, once I sat down and I'm like, okay, I'm racing this race, this date. How can I take care of everything I need to take care of? Like, in terms of running, like, how much mileage do I need to do per week? How much do I need to run every day? For me, it's a commitment at that point. It's like, okay, this is what you want to accomplish. These are the things you have to do leading up to it. If you don't do something, it's your own fault that you didn't achieve this.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you didn't do this 10-mile run this random day, then you can blame yourself why you didn't run what you needed to run.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever, in the past few years, missed a training?
For injury, I have. Like, when I get injured, of course, I've missed some training, but like, for me not wanting to go, no.
Is it, do you do core work?
Yeah.
What's your core exercises?
So basically, I do a lot of stuff that will strengthen in just like my main like running protector. So like the stuff that's gonna keep me stable through my running, so I'm not wasting extra energy, right? So I'll do like a lot of single leg bridges, planks, side planks, stuff that strengthens my glutes but my core as well. Like, that's keeping myself steady through my run, right? Because if you don't have a strong core, you're gonna be wasting a lot of energy, right?
Yeah,
you're
I think
like...
that's where I need to improve. I'm like, but do you stretch?
Yeah.
How
I do
long?
stretch.
How long? Before or after?
Usually after.
And
I'll
how
do
long?
like maybe 10-15 minutes. I'm a very stiff person. Because I've run so much, I'm extremely stiff. But doing like a little bit of stretching just helps me stay like injury free, right?
Yeah, that's super important. I was impressed when David Goggins said that he stretches 2 hours a night. That's insane.
Yeah, I can't, like, just don't have the time.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
Yeah, it's insane. But in many ways, I guess he has had like so many ridiculous injuries and fractures and the military and surgeries as well. And the last question, my friend, that all the podcast guests get is, if we were to meet a year from now with a bottle of champagne, what are we celebrating in Esteban's life?
In Esteban's life, hope
2024.
2024, right? Wow, years passing by. Well, at that point, I will hope to be closer to like a 120 marathoner, like a 220 marathoner at that point.
2 hours 20 minutes.
2 hours 20 minutes.
That's
like
six. Another 6 minutes.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
gotta put a lot of work to it.
Yeah, 100%.
That will be ideally.
So for context, the world record in history, well, that it's been documented, is approximately 26 minutes. Faster. Is it 2 hours now?
2 hours and 1 minute.
So 25 minutes faster than
yeah.
Esteban. And a regular guy like me would probably run a marathon like an hour and a half or an hour or 2 hours after Esteban. Esteban is probably like from Chicago back in Toronto, and I'm still finishing the marathon. That's insane. Have you ever considered ultra marathons?
See, sometimes I think I'm like, you know what? Maybe once you complete your goals in marathoning, maybe you try it. But then at the same time, I'm like, do I really want to go and run 50 miles for training?
Yeah, it's insane.
That just seems crazy to me. Like, I'm gonna say no, but you never know.
You never know.
That's the thing. You never know. Like,
so it's a time thing.
Yeah.
It's not a distance thing for you.
No, it's a time thing, really. It's a huge time commitment.
What's the longest distance you've ever run?
Well, marathon 42K.
Yeah, because I guess in the training you never run over 42K.
No, the longest I run in training will be 39K.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Johnny Waite the episode before this, and he said that one of the coolest things about the long distance, the ultra marathons, is that the community is amazing because everybody is. Yeah, you want to do a great time, but when you're running 100 miles, you're not like, oh, I'm gonna win it. You're just like, it's a community. You want to make it. Obviously, you want to have a good time.
Yeah.
But the friendships.
Yeah, for them is you're running 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's like just survival.
Yeah, it's survival in many ways. And what's your next race?
So the next race will be Burlington. That will be March. And then my next big marathon will be Berlin in October of this year.
That's incredible.
So
my cousin just ran that one.
Yeah. It's a fast course, so hoping that training goes well and I can try dropping a couple more minutes.
What's the altitude?
Altitude is very low. It's at
sea level?
Yeah, sea level, and it's like the flattest part of Europe. Like that's normal. That's where
is
the
there
world
elevation during the race?
No, it's flat. That's where the world record was set.
Oh yeah, this year, right? Just last October. No,
last year.
Oh, 2021.
2021, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's super flat. Is the air is very thin. It's known as the fastest marathon in the world. So.
And I guess as we talk about the world record, do you think that you are born for it? Like people who like Eliud Kipchoge or however you pronounce it, are these? I'm not saying these people from Africa are they born for it. I'm saying like, are people born for it? Like if somebody like me would train their whole lives, probably. I don't know if I would ever make it to Eliud Kipchoge's. I don't think I would make it to that level.
I definitely think there's some sort of genetic component to it. Like for me, I was lucky enough that I was born in Ecuador, so I was born at altitude. So I think that has something to do with it. Like I played soccer at like
What's
a decent level.
What's the altitude in Quito? 3,000 meters?
10,000 feet. So yeah, 3,000 meters or something
around
like that. So
that,
it's high. Like I've gone to run there and like, it's tough.
Yeah. But body-wise, because a lot of these, I guess the anaerobic versus aerobic make you like you won't see people as fit as like Usain Bolt in like winning marathons.
Yeah.
And you won't see people as thin as Kipchoge winning the 100 meter the 100 meter
like
race.
You have to. There is some genetic like you have to be a little bit thinner, lower body composition than like a sprinter or like a weightlifter, right? Because as it is, like you carry a little more weight, a little more muscle, you have to carry that for 26 miles. Like, it will catch up.
Yeah, 100%. Anything that you carry in the race except your watch?
No, nothing. Just put my uniform on and that's it.
Do you have specific socks?
Yeah, I do. We wear like it's just like they're very tight, so like they feel like I'm basically running barefoot.
And is your shoe tight as well, or a little not too tight?
Not too tight because like your foot gets swollen by the end.
Yeah.
So if it's too tight by the end of the race, like you feel like your foot is numb.
I recently I bought these socks, like they called like Banega, I think. Banega, and it felt so good.
Yeah.
Different than normal socks.
Yeah.
Like they kind of they hug your
Yeah,
foot.
so like that's why I race in. They're like very thin, but like they feels like they're hugging your foot the whole time.
Oh, it's so good. It's so. And do you wear sleeves or?
It depends. If
Or in
it's
your
cold,
leg?
then I'll wear sleeves. I just wear half tights when I race. It's just very compressed to my body, and that's pretty much it.
Do the sleeves for the legs? Do they do something, or like the long socks? Because I see people in like longer.
It depends. Like so, some people like having that tightness because it helps with blood flow.
Okay,
So
nice.
some have them around their arms. So like if you see like Kipchoge, he will wear them in his calves and sometimes his arms, especially in his arms. It just helps with blood flow.
Nice.
But then like if it's warm outside, like, and there's no chance I'm wearing long sleeves.
I love it. My friends, we've come to the end of this masterclass with the Ecuadorian Gazelle. I only see Esteban for like 20 seconds at a time because when he starts running, I never see him again until he comes back to the track. My friend, thank you for being here.
No, thank you for inviting me. It was awesome. I really love to talk.
Me too. I could be here for another 3 hours talking. I'm wondering, like, will people enjoy this episode? Because we're getting very deep into the athletics. But hey, this is about high performers and incredible, amazing stories. So here we are, Esteban Clavijo and Stephan Dyer on the Stephan Dyer Podcast. Ciao, ciao.
Gracias por escuchar el Stephan Dyer Podcast. Arrivederci, my people.